I'm afraid to start QLA. That is probably what I hear most in terms of the reasons that people give that they haven't gone forward with QLA. I do a lot of mentoring, obviously, and one of the things I see in the group coaching questionnaire as far as what has held you back, almost always it's fear. So, how do you deal with fear? That's a good question. Primarily, fear turns out to be false expectations appearing real. And while that sounds like a exciting little acronym for it, it really is true. I remember that Dan had talked to Josh Kim, and Josh had said 95% of the stuff I worried about in the past 3 years never happened. And so most of the time that turns out to be the case. If there are some things that you better prepare for, and then some healthy fear is worthwhile. If you're going to go bungee jumping or skydiving, you might want to check that the bungee cord is sturdy. And if you're going to go skydiving, you might want to think about making sure the chute that you're going to have your life depend on is well packed and up to the task. Those kind of fears I get. But most of the time, people end up saying, well, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and what if I lose everything? Well, most of the time, the people that are starting with QLA, the younger people, really don't have anything to lose other than time. They don't have any assets to speak of. So that risk is, in fact, almost always based out of fear. But it's interesting when you look at fear. Mark Twain said, "Do the thing you fear most, and the death of fear is certain." And boy, is that true. It's interesting if you go back and look at surveys of people. A lot of people fear public speaking more than they fear death, which is reasonably incredible, right? But what you find is, and I remember this myself when I thought back to grade school, you thought about a talk you had to give, and you would think a month in advance, and you'd be waking up worried about it. And then you would think of all the bad things that would happen if I messed up. And over time, and this certainly has happened to me, with the more public speaking you do, you realize that almost always those fears are unwarranted, particularly if you know the subject matter better. Same thing's true with talking to big hitters on board of directors. You're going to find that those discussions with the big hitters are easier than the smaller people that you're initially going to reach out to because they're in your comfort zone. And I know that seems hard to believe, but you are going to find that. So think about what's the worst thing that can happen. Can you deal with that? And most times it won't happen anyway. Way back in the 90s, Dan was giving a talk. It's on my website. And he put up a slide with a quote from me, and that quote was, "I am increasing my risk and stretching my comfort zone on a daily basis. Risk doesn't scare me anymore. I have replaced fear with faith. I find that two emotions can't exist at the same time." Dan said he couldn't agree more, and even looking back at it more than 25 years ago, I couldn't agree more as well. So I'd encourage you to put the fear aside, replace it with some faith, give it a try. Give it a try. And if you don't know what to do, follow the steps. That is critically important, the steps that Dan created in QLA more than 25 years ago. You can find those free on my website. You can find them free on Dan's. I'd encourage you to listen to the seminar clips. There's a lot of things there. And a lot of people have asked me, beyond the course that I offered, which is now a free class, the brucewhipple.com/free class, that just doesn't include the call with me anymore. Would I go further and do it more in depth? And I agreed to do that. So I did the deep dive boot camp. That it was live originally. Now it's recordings, and you can go to brucewhipple.com/deep dive boot camp. I'd encourage you to do that. It's about 12 hours of training, and it goes through the steps, but for a lot of people, more importantly, it goes through the templates that have been used successfully and the tools to use, like LinkedIn, how to use LinkedIn, how to use it correctly, how not to use it. But you're going to find that each one of these steps is something that you can, I believe, master. And one of the ways that you replace fear is you increase your self-image. And how do you increase your self-image? You start to do things and have successes, and then, son of a gun, you believe that you're capable of doing that. And when you release that beast, some things will happen that you never thought would happen. So again, I'd encourage you to follow those QLA steps. One of the mistakes a lot of people make is jumping to a deal and saying, well, I don't need a dream team. I don't need professionals. And that's a big, big mistake that usually ends badly. But again, brucewhipple.com/deep dive bootcamp. I think you're going to find that very helpful, and we'll lay out the steps, how to do them, and with what tools you can do the steps. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments or ideas for future episodes, please email bruce@brucewhipple.com. And if you're not already on our mailing list, head over to brucewhipple.com and sign up and grab any of the free reports. That'll put you on the mailing list. There is a lot of free information you can use to acquire already profitable businesses. This is Bruce Whipple. Thanks for listening to the Business Acquisition Podcast. And remember, you miss 100% of the opportunities you failed to take. And procrastination truly is the thief of time. So do something today, please. Your future self will be proud of you.